Hello everyone, Luke here, and as you can see I'm in a different area of the room. That's because in the last few videos that I've done, which were over there, you had one of the lights shining down right on me and it was really distracting and all sorts of things, and I finally managed a place where I can put the poster up as well. It's behind one of my bookcases. Well, one of the bookcases is behind it and I've got the poster hooked up on there. So yeah, this will hopefully be where all the videos are done from now on. But without further ado, that's all I wanted to say. Get that out of the way. Let's dive right into Dr. Stone. Alright, so this has been chapter 163, titled Multi-Front Final Battle. Now, that title may sound a little bit like weary, like are we approaching the climax of the New American City arc or not? In my opinion, I don't think we're quite at the climax yet. Maybe like another 5 chapters we might be... No, not even 5 chapters, like 10 chapters we might be at the climax, but I think we're in the final... But I think the title's preparing us like, okay, we're in the final stages of the arc itself, but we've still got a way to go before we leave America and go to our next destination. Alright, so the chapter starts off with Ryusui and Kazuki focusing their efforts on actually getting the aircraft carrier on the Perseus actually completed. As Ryusui says, these guys got the ground covered, but we're dead in the water until we're up in the air too. Land, sea, and air supremacy will decide this battle. There's no time to lose in finishing our aircraft carrier and plane. And Ryu's was like, but only Senku can make the finishing touches. So if we cut to Senku, who's actually still on his still bedridden from his attack from Stanley a few chapters ago, and he's trying to give out the orders and everything. And Yusubi is like, oh, you need to rest, Senku, but Francois is like, apologies to you and your patient, Dr. Luna. And I love how she calls Luna Dr. Luna, showing that even though Luna's not really the smartest when it comes to like studying and everything, she's still the only capable doctor at this point in terms of medicine. And this is something that me and Party Jams actually had a discussion with yesterday. We were still going on about whether or not Luna can actually speak, well, not actually speak, but can actually understand Japanese. And in my opinion, she can, and I'll go into details later on in the chapter. But in terms of how we feel about how actually smart Luna is, we can both agree that in terms of smart, she's more effective when she's actually on the field than behind a desk studying books. And I feel like she's more of a learner as you go along and as you're actually doing the field, rather than actually going around and just being like clambering books. Because if you remember in the flashback, she was behind a desk and she had absolutely no idea what anyone was talking about, and she only got into that based on her father's money and wealth. She's kind of like Ryusui in that sense, except whereas Ryusui was someone who was like, I'm smart, but I'm still going to use my talent, my smarts to benefit my talents. Luna never did anything for that. She had everything handed to her on a silver platter. She just got soaked up in her family's wealth, so that when it actually came time for her to actually get serious, she actually had no idea what she was doing or who she was as a person. And I feel like her being on the field and being more of a practical person rather than a test taker, that benefits her as well. And Party John seemed to agree with me on that. And I feel like she would greatly benefit the Kingdom of Science in terms of her medical prowess, but also herself if she actually decided to officially join it and become one of its members. Like, she can actually learn from Senku, and like I said, she's more of a, oh, he's teaching me this practically rather than wording it down. He's actually showing me, and I'm like, okay, I've got this now. I've really got this. And yeah, I could see that being beneficial for her character. So anyway, continuing on, Francois says that even though Senku is bedridden, he cannot relinquish his position as the science commander that easily, and that's kind of understandable. Someone who's kind of been in that position of being a leader for that long, and then all of a sudden he's having to rely on other people. Not really that easy to like let go, because you're always going to be like thinking like, no, do it this way, do it that way. I want to help, but at the same time, I don't want. But at the same time, I know I can't help. And Senku at this point is just like, just now we've got to keep on working on getting me back into fighting shape as Luna continues to study Senku. And I love the fact that they've actually got a stethoscope here as well. And she's checking her lungs, and she's amazed that even though Senku is the same age as her, he in the stone world, starting out all alone. He built everything one diligent step at a time. And she's like, my first impressions were right on the money, being Luna the smooth talker, Luna the optimist, or whatever type she calls herself. Her instincts were right about this smart talking guy. It's definitely him, Dr. Senko. She continues to work on him, and I love that about Luna as well, about her character. I'm starting to really like her character more and more as we go on through the arc, because again, it's showing that she's someone who probably doubts herself a lot in terms of her skills and intelligence, but in actuality she could be really possibly one of the more smarter people on the same level of like, I'd say she'd probably be on the level of like Kimru in terms of smarts. Like, Kimru's not as smart as Chrome or Senku or Ryusui, not by a long shot, but he's certainly not as dumb as Magma or his brother or Mantle or some of the other ones. So I'd say she's like mid-tier in terms of intelligence, but she actually feels again that she had everything brought to her so easily that when it came time to her actually, you're on your own now, she doubted herself completely and felt of someone who was useless and pathetic. But when you're actually doing the field itself, oh, you've actually got it. Kind of like with Suika at the beginning of the series. She always felt she was useless because she had the watermelon on her head. But once she joined the Kingdom of Science, that's when her talents completely flourished, and she's actually been one of the more helpful members of the Kingdom of Science ever since she joined it. And now we get to probably my favourite point in the whole chapter. As Luna is continuously studying Senku and his lungs, she mentions that his left lung is sounding weaker, and she thinks blood is actually pouring out. Like, he was probably hit the most where his left lung is, so like there's more blood pouring out into that area than rather than it being like an equal balance. And Senku's response to this is, and from what I can tell throughout the speech bubble, it's more like dotted around, and I feel that's an indication that Senku is actually talking English at this point to Luna, because if you remember in my last review I brought up that Senku can actually speak English pretty well, so I feel like that dotted line around the speech bubble is an indication that he is talking in a language that Luna can understand. And like I said, we're going to get into more of that later in the chapter. But anyway, Senku's response to finding out that his left lung has more blood pumping into it or pouring into it at that point is, great, Luna, now stab me with the syringe and suck it out. And Luna takes that as probably Luna and Ginru, because Ginru's there as well, and even though what's going to happen in the chapter kind of contradicts this a little bit, I just want to say I would love it if Ginru and Luna got together, basically because they're pretty much the female and male equivalent of each other. Like, they both except Luna at this point is way more intelligent than Ginru, but in terms of like actual personality and just the way they react to situations, they just have the same exact reactions, and this is no exception. They take this as what I interpret as being more sexual when Senku says "suck it out," because it's just the way he actually says it. Great, Luna, now stab me with the syringe and suck it out. And she's like, eek, and well, Gimu's like eek, and Luna's eyes are just eyes bulging and everything, and she's like, and at that point she's like sweating profusely as she has the syringe like sort of like in a lightning pulse, like, I'm Luna, the smoothest operator, Luna the capable girl, as Senku eventually explains what he actually needs doing is that if his breathing keeps getting weaker after they suck out the blood, that means he's got a cut in there and then bleeding right into the lung. In that case, ignore the pouring blood and find a way to stop the bleeding. Either way, either way, he'll need a transfer of someone who has type A blood. But Ginru, being from Japan and having no idea what Senku is actually saying, interprets AAB type AB blood as something completely different, and he's like, Luna, you probably have no idea what he's actually saying, but of course Senku can actually tell that no, Luna does have an idea of what he's actually saying, and he's like, Luna, I know you're with the enemy, but you've all I got. And I love that. I love that camaraderie of the fact that, okay, even though we're enemies, there's nobody else I can turn to right now. You're the only one with medical knowledge, so I need you to save my life, even though I know you're my enemy, and Senior will probably kill you for this himself, but just please save my life. Because he has an entire kingdom of science behind him, and he needs to complete his mission no matter what. So I love that about Senku, how he's completely neutral in certain situations, and the fact that he's willing to like lay down everything and be like, look, we're enemies, but at the same time, if you were injured, I would help you, so I expect you to help me as well. So as Luna listens to Senku's request, she has a request of her own, which is that because it'll be enough to get. She says, "I don't even need an answer now. Just say you'll think about it, because that'll be enough to get me through this." So she is willing to help Senku, but only if she requests something from him as well. And she's like. And he's like, he plays this off as a joke at first, because it's like, what are your demands? If it's total surrender, then too bad, because that ain't happening. But no, that is not what's happening. Luna wants Senku to be her boyfriend, which of course, Senku, that was probably the last thing he was expecting, as demonstrated by his reactions. Like, gives like the real like, huh? What? And we don't see Senku's response, but based on what Luna says, he was probably like, okay, I mean, I guess I could be your boyfriend. But even though I much like Ginru and Luna to get together, this I actually like as well, because that it can lead to actually some comedic moments between Luna and some of the other girls. Not Koroku, but maybe more like. I'd say more like Nikki, like Ginru's more like, hey Nikki, Senku's got a boyfriend, and he's not as buff as you. And of course Nikki would be like boom, 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 to Ginru, like Ginru will just have a field day with this, pretty much. But the reason why I don't want it to be Kukoku is because I've said this before and I'll say it again. I've always seen Kuhoku and Senku as more like brother and sister relationship rather than love interest. So this is actually perfect, because it puts to rest like Senku probably is never going to get with anyone from the Kingdom of Science. So just keep those thoughts out of you. I think this is the author's telling us this by actually having Senku and Luna actually be together, and actually it makes the most sense, because both of them are doctors, and they can both learn from each other. Like Luna can learn more of the science aspect. At the same time, she could probably teach Senku a few basic medical needs, because I don't believe Senku is really focused on that side of being a doctor. He's more on the science side, so I feel like she could actually teach him a few little tricks of the trade, and maybe that will make him feel like, well, lady, since you've actually taught me that, maybe I will like love you a bit more. I'd love to see Senku's more romantic side come out here, even though he's pretty asexual. Even asexual people can actually be romantic at times. I'm a perfect example of this. Like, I'm asexual, but it doesn't mean I've not had romances before. But at the same time, sex is not something. It's not something I look for in a relationship. I look for more like the person themselves. Like, do I want to spend time? Do I want to spend time and have fun with them? And I feel like Senku's not the same way because he's more interested in the science aspect. But I feel like if Luna becomes more interested in science, then that will really get his getting up there, if you know what I mean. So coming over to Chrome's team, we have Tsukasa and Hyoga focusing their attention on on figuring out what the fortress's layout is, and Hyoga says, should our tunnel emerge right into their barricades, we'll just let's just say we won't be having the last laugh, and that's actually a really good point, because if it actually did stroll into Sinu's little fortress, they have no idea what kind of people Sinu has under their control and under his control, and he could actually overpower them at that point. So it's important that they actually know the layout of the actual fortress itself. And Taiju being Taiju goes up to Carlos in like the most hyperactive way. It's like, Carlos, can you help us? Can you help us out? Want to draw a map of Sinu's castle? And Carlos is just like, obviously not, because he's still the enemy. Even though he helped Taiju get to their camp, he's still the enemy. So obviously he's not going to do it. He's not going to do anything like that to betray Sinu or betray Luna But that gets completely far away when Yukio is over the radio and he's like, a woman's voice I don't recognize, and Carlos immediately recognizes it, and soon as we get like just like the oh shit, like oh my god type face from Carlos and Yukio, like those two types of faces, probably I'd say my favorite face, like award for best face in the chapter goes to both Yukio and Carlos, just for that reaction, like, oh, is this actually happening? Is this really actually happening? As Carlos goes, no, and he starts bawling his eyes out, and Kohako and Chrome are like, what's going on? Why are you getting so emotional all of a sudden? And Luna's over the radio, over the intercom, like, I finally found myself a boyfriend, Senku, and everyone has different reactions. Taju's like, yeah, that's great, go for it, my guy. And Chrome's like, what is actually going on here? And Karaku's like, I don't know, but I've got a pretty good idea. And Carlos is just like, oh my god, are we really doing this? Fine then. He's like, okay, situation changed. Max and I would go to hell and back from Miss Luna. We're our allies to the bitter end, so he values Luna more than Sinu. So he's like, oh my god, well, if Luna's on the enemy side, I guess I'm on the enemy side now. And he immediately starts drawing a diagram of Sinu's fortress, as Hyoga's like, excellent, well done. Once we're inside the castle, Gen, our inside man, can guide us around. And Suika brings up an interesting question here, like, since Gen is already in there, how would they actually tell him about the plans? And Chrome's like, yeah, that's right. He'll probably, from what he says, from what Chrome says, he's like, Gen probably wouldn't understand that they're using that usage code thingy. And Kuroko's like, oh well, I want to. Oh well, he's a totally untrusted smooth talker anyway. And Chrome's like, I wouldn't trust anyone who's untrustworthy anyway. And I love that back and forth between Chrome and Kuroko. I always love their interactions together. But of course, Gen being Gen has a trick up his sleeve. Quite literally, because he always has his sleeves like Gin Ichimaro from Bleach. Like, he always has his arms Gin always had his arms in his Shiokshu, like both arms, so he like to cover up things. And Gen is pretty much doing the exact same thing here, as it's revealed that he actually has the wireless phone. So he's probably been hearing everything that everyone has been saying over the intercoms and everything. He's probably tapped into their frequencies so that he's been able to hear everything on the outside without actually being able to communicate with them. So smart plan on his part. So as Gen figures out that they're using the usage code, before he can even actually listen into more, he gets distracted when everyone is announcing that Sinu's project is actually finished, and Sinu's like, incredible Dr. Brody, truly elegant. Our project for the final battle will be put into action the day after tomorrow. Oh boy. Oh boy, oh shit. This final battle is probably going to be more hype than the Kingdom of Science versus the Petrification Kingdom. As even Gen is like sweating profusely like now because he's like, this is bad. This is really, really bad. This is a secret stone world weapon that even Senku and Pals couldn't possibly imagine. Now, I have no idea what it is. I mean, people are saying nukes or rockets, but that completely goes out of the window because Senku probably would have thought of that himself. But at the same time, I don't know. I don't know what this actual secret project is. And in all honesty, I don't want to know. I don't want to theorize. I want to be surprised on the day when Sinu's actually on a cliff there saying, Brody, release the project. And we actually see like what the actual contraption actually is that Brody has actually been working on. Cutting back over to the Perseus sometime later, we see Luna having a drink at bar Francois. She's like, now that I'm officially dating Senku, what exactly does this dating even mean? And I love that is actually the first thing that comes to mind because you have a lot of characters in anything really who's just like, I want to do this I want to do this thing or I want to rule this thing, but then once they actually have it, they have no idea what to actually do with it. And I love that that's actually being brought up to for the first time here. And Francois' like a philosophical question, to be sure. It's like, what even changed? As Luna, it's not Francois saying this, it's Luna that's saying this. It's like, what even changed for me? We didn't get to hang out, and heck, we didn't even get to hold hands. So like, she's been like, oh, now that I'm dating Senku, what do I actually do? We didn't even get to hang out or even hold hands. But no, you'll probably get a lot of time to hang out with him, especially if you can handle his 5-hour explanation on rockets, Luna. If you can handle Senku's 5-hour explanation on rockets, you are Senku wife material, in my opinion. Just like how Yusubiya could do it, and she was like, just fascinating, like, oh, Senku, charm me with your explanation on rockets. Like, she was just gleary-eyed, like, there's 5 hours when she was actually telling them, like, I'm a veteran of 5-hour explanations. And Taija was the one who was asleep, but Yusubi was just there, like, gleaming-eyed, like, yes, Dr. Senku, yes, Senku Sensei, teach me more about rockets. So, yeah, if you can actually do that, Luna, then you are waifu material for Senku. And Luna goes on to actually continuously just talk her mouth off. She's like, yeah, can you translate for me? Can you translate for me, Francois? And we know that she's Senku wife material here because she's stealing his catchphrases. She is stealing Senku's catchphrases. So yeah, she is Senku wife material right then and there. Forget what I just said. Stealing Senku's catchphrase. No one steals Senku's catchphrase. So yeah, Senku wife material. She goes on, I mean, you're not about to tell me that Senku 10 billion % doesn't give a crap about dating and would say whatever I want to be, and would say whatever I want to just accomplish his goal, right? Because obviously nobody ever be that outer line, right? As everyone looks over, is like, should we tell her? Yeah, I think we should tell what kind of guy he actually has when it comes to romances. And fuck, remember when I said about Senku being asexual? Yeah, I forgot about that. I forgot about this part here. I forgot about this part about Senku actually. Senku, he's just saying it to accomplish his goal. So yeah, but I guarantee that they'll probably get together at some point. He'll probably be like, oh, that's nice. That's nice, Luna. Maybe we could have some private time. But anyway, getting off my Senku x Luna fantasy. This is the part that I wanted to talk about. When Kinryu's the one telling Luna, actually, in order to further his goal, he went as far as getting married. And Luna's like, he's already hitched. Well, then he ended it. He got a divorce, and she's like, oh my god, what kind of guy do I actually want to date here? But yeah, this was the part I was saying when I was saying about how Luna, because there was no indication that Francois was actually translating what Kinryu was saying to Luna into English. So, from my understanding, Luna can understand what they're actually saying in Japanese based on that small panel there from Kinru, but she can't actually speak the language itself. So like she's more like, okay, I can understand what they're saying, but at the same time, maybe she can speak the language, but she has trouble pronouncing certain phrases or getting them in the right tone of voice for them to actually understand it as well. So maybe she can, but at the same time, that little panel there, that little exchange, pretty much is proof to me that she can at least understand them. Now, whether or not she can actually speak multiple languages and she's the only translator, that remains to be seen. But personally, I would like that. I would like her to have one more skill other than just being good at being a medical profession. I would like to at least be a translator, like the ultimate translator, along with Francois. I feel like Francois could fit that category as well, but we'll just have to wait and see. But at the same time, it's not gonna ruin the character if she's not the ultimate translator, because I like the character itself. I just feel like she could give more, and she knows more than she's saying. God, she's just very nervous and very worrying that her skills would be completely useless. But in this Stone World, they'll be the most useful completely at this point. But anyway, that was just a side tangent that I wanted to get on here. As the battle starts to heat up, as we see everyone hearing like Stanley coming in his plane, and they're like, here it comes, we got action. At last it begins, the climactic science showdown, as we see Stanley's revamped plane, which is more like one of those planes. I can't remember what they're actually called, where you have like a wing on top and a wing on the bottom, and a wing at the back. So like you have people actually sitting on the wings themselves. I can't remember what those planes are actually called, but anyway, Ryu's was like, "You kept us waiting, Stanley," as we finally see the aircraft carrier Perseus, and it looks spectacular. Like seriously. However long it actually took them, guys, I don't care. It looks spectacular, and you just see like the plane that they actually stole from Stanley the first time just like rise out of the back of the Perseus, and I cannot wait until the anime gets to that point, because that's probably gonna be the climax of an episode itself, like just the plane rising up out of the Perseus as Ryusui goes, "That Stanley guy better bought his pilot A game, because in this flight we will avenge Senku." As we see Senku in the back, like, "I'm not exactly dead right now. I'm right here with you." And they go, "It's a science versus science dogfight," and we get the caption, aircraft carrier and plane acquired, and that's where the chapter ends. Now, a lot of people are like asking, like, how did Senku get from the bed to the plane? And obvious answer is obvious. It's obvious in the question. How many people are actually on that aircraft carrier on the Perseus right now? Obviously, they moved him gently to the plane if he could actually move, but at the same time, we don't know how much of a time gap there was between Luna working on Senku and becoming his girlfriend to her actually seeing at the bar. We actually have no idea what that time lapse actually was. So Senku, for all intents and purposes, could be healed at that point. We don't actually know. But anyway, really love this chapter. I love the fact. I honestly love the fact that we got just like we got with Carlos and Max last chapter and Taiju. We got character development for Luna as well, and it's showing different sides to her. I guess like now that she's more of understanding what I feel like she's more understanding of what the Kingdom of Science actually is in terms of the Dr. Sinu people. That's more like business arrangement, whereas with the Kingdom of Science, it's more like a family, and anyone that they bring on, they kind of like treat as family. Like anyone that can help Senku or help the Kingdom of Science is welcomed into the family, and I feel like that's what Senku is actually trying to say to Luna. Like, look, you're sort of like a pseudo member at this point, because I've got no one else to turn to. You're the only one, so please help me. So like, he's more like, we may be enemies, but right now our interests align. That because I feel like he saw something in Luna, like even though he wouldn't like to admit it, he saw something in Luna. Saw like this girl who's like, I know this girl is capable of a lot, and this is the perfect opportunity for her to spread her wings and actually prove herself, not just to the people around her, but also to herself as well. So yeah, I love the character development of Luna, and I love the fact that it ended on the chapter ended on a high note, because where probably the next chapter is probably just going to be the dogfight. I wouldn't be surprised if the next chapter is just the two players just fighting with each other all chapter. But anyway, guys, what did you think of this chapter? Let me know. Like, subscribe, comment, all that jazz. And this will be Lasher Luke signing off. Later, guys.